Beautiful. All right. To all of my listener this morning or today, I catching up with Mike Salemi, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Directly from where exactly are you based?
So I'm in Northern California. So I'm like maybe 30 minutes south of San Francisco.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Wow, wow, beautiful. I lived in California when I was in my 20, Los Angeles and San Diego. Yeah, yeah, it was
Beautiful. Yeah. Top three. Those are the top three places. Well, I don't want to say the top three places. Actually, California is so beautiful. Like even now, even though I've lived here most of my life, I'm
mm,
just now in the last few years discovering like some of the natural beauty or a lot of the natural beauty that we got. So yeah, San Diego, LA, and San Francisco are great areas, but there's such cool places all over.
yeah, yeah. That's one of the things um that I regret now of being there, that I didn't travel. I was just in Los Angeles and I was just concentrating on surfing, and same in San Diego. I was just doing the same work, surf, and no, nothing. But it was my dream at the time. So I guess at the time I fulfilled what I what I wanted to do then. So yeah, Mike, you got a long history of exercise, training, physical training. You started at a really young age. You started your journey pretty much started on powerlifting. How did you get here to what do you do today?
Man, it's been this constant evolution, and it's like every single year I usually have one theme or one thing that I'm trying to work on, whether it's, in personal life, in relationships, in career. And so for me, so much of like my journey has been an athlete. So like I remember being so diehard in powerlifting, but I think in any sport, it's like the more that you compete and the more that you train and the higher level that you get,
Yeah.
the risk of injury goes up. And so, I mean, how I got here today, really, I would just say is through a lot of challenging experiences, from injuries to failures in competitions to winning a lot as well. And
Mm,
I really found that the human body, in my opinion, needs it needs variety. It needs to be challenged to adapt. And so the type of training that I do today and a lot of my philosophy is all around teaching the body to be more resilient and more adaptable, whether that's with kettlebells, Bulgarian bags, stretching, the check stuff that me and you do. So it's been a full on journey, but I'm really, I'm really happy with where I'm at and how I'm feeling today for sure.
yeah, great, great. And yeah, because you were you you became a world champion on in kettlebell or um other
Yes.
area.
So I was a world champion in kettlebell sport in one organization,
Mm,
and then I was also what they call master of sport, which is kind of like you can basically think of it like a black belt level. And so I reached that in two different categories. And then when I was 19, I won a world championships in one organization in powerlifting on the bench press and the deadlift as well.
wow. And that was with gear on, or was raw? Was
It was with gear. It was with gear, and I believe that was single ply. I don't think it was double. We're talking like long time ago, but for sure the deadlift was single ply. I don't remember if the bench was single or double ply, to be honest. But yeah, it was with gear.
yeah. Does it change much?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, and this we're talking, what, 16, 17 years ago, something like that, more or less. And man, the gear back then was like insane. And so I haven't been using, I mean, I haven't obviously competed more or less since then or since my mid 20s. So I can only imagine. I mean, there's like, I don't even know how many plies there are now, but back then there was like usually triple ply was the thickest back then. I'm sure it's either more or the materials from canvas to denim was way back when. And like, from my experience, the deadlift specifically
Mm,
doesn't help. as much as the bench and the squat when it comes to gear. That was my personal experience. And that's also why, like, oftentimes I would always see, deadlifters, some guys wouldn't even wear any gear, even if they had the option to do it, or just wear some
Mm.
like some tight briefs that would go underneath the suits. But the squat, you'll get a big gain, especially if the material or the ply is thicker, and then the bench press as well. But I haven't seen as much, relatively speaking, compared to the deadlift.
Yeah, and for the squat now, I don't have a picture very well, but for the squat is the knee wrapping, and what else? What else is on the person?
I mean, it's going to be dependent on the organization. That now there's so many. I mean, there's been, even back then there was so many organizations, and each organization is going to have their rule set and is
All
going to
right.
have what gear. But like some might not even, if they allow knee wraps, they might regulate how long they are, whether they're 2 or 2.5 meters. I honestly don't recall because it's been so long. But the knee wraps, like let's just say a full gear situation,
Yeah.
would probably have on the squat knee wraps, would have groove briefs, so like basically the bottom half of a suit
Mm.
underneath. Then you would wear a suit over it, so you'd have basically a singlet that's really tight. And those are going to be the biggest thing. Someone might wear wrist wraps and stuff like that for their riffs,
Mm.
but that would be knee wraps, groove briefs, and the suit are going to be like the top three things that you'll see people wearing.
Mm. Mm. How long did you compete as a power lifter?
Almost 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Jeez.
14, like about 14 till about 24.
Wow. Injury?
Injuries that I had in powerlifting, I was coming off of a lower back injury, a pinched nerve right around L5S1 from gymnastics before that.
Oh,
Powerlifting really honestly was one of the main, and actually having a really good chiropractor in the area. His name is Mike Ludovico. He rehabbed my back. But in powerlifting specifically, the major injury, let me see, I had actually a bench shirt rip and blow up on me. And so when it tore, I don't even recall. I definitely had over 400 on the bar, so maybe like 180-ish kilos plus.
yeah.
And I was going down, and the shirt ripped on one side. And so when it ripped, it basically, like, I never got it assessed, but since then, actually my left shoulder, since then, like left pec, left shoulder, and also too in kettlebell sport, I had a compartment syndrome, which is the main reason why I went to go work with Paul to get it rehabbed.
Yeah.
But that part, like, it was all on the left side. So I was always curious if that bench shirt tearing and basically whatever happened on the inside of inside the shoulder capsule, the shoulder joint, all those joints,
Yeah.
uh, if that actually was a big contributing factor. I'm sure it had to do something with it, but
Mm.
basically it was more like pec and shoulder issues in powerlifting towards the end.
Yeah. 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 It is a pretty pretty heavy sport. We can say. Yeah.
For sure.
And then what made you veer away from that to the kettlebell? What?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in between kettlebell sport and powerlifting, I competed in Olympic weightlifting for a little bit of time in college.
All right.
And with powerlifting, to be fully honest, like if I really wanted to compete at the level that I wanted to, which was on the larger stages, at that time, like, the WPO and competing at the Arnold Classic, like to compete with guys at like West Side Barbell and that, more than likely I would have had to start juicing, and that was not a choice that I really wanted to. I came from a drug-free powerlifting gym, and nothing, like that's their choice, but for my choice, for me, that wasn't a route that I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so there was that. And then honestly too, like I felt a little disillusioned with the amount of organizations and the amount of rule sets and the amount of like, it's like you could win one meet and smoke everybody, but then the same day there's, five other organizations, who knows, writing competitions,
Yeah.
and you might finish bottom last.
Mm.
So for me, like I got to a point where one, I was looking for a little bit more athleticism.
Mm.
Powerlifting is a great base of strength, but I wanted to tap into that athleticism kind of that I had as a gymnast.
Yeah.
I wanted like a stricter rule set, and I wanted just a little bit more, for lack of a better term, I wanted how I experienced like a little more purity
Yeah.
uh, in the rules and in that sort of stuff. So I found that in Olympic weightlifting more so with one governing, USA weightlifting, the just wearing a belt and a singlet, more explosive lifts, more athletic lifts. And
Yeah.
so that was really cool. But at the same time, I was a strength and conditioning coach, and I was coaching at Santa Clara University, maybe like 45 minutes from where I live, an hour or
Mm,
so. And I was coaching their tennis team. And when I was a strength and conditioning coach, I was using some of the Olympic lifts with them, and I was already using kettlebells for a few years already, but I
yeah.
didn't know about kettlebell sport. And, when I was working with him, I had a team of, man, I don't even remember, maybe like 8, 10 guys. I don't even recall exactly, but it's really hard to teach the Olympic lifts to people who don't have a background in it, in
Yeah.
a team environment with
Mm,
competition between the guys, and you don't have much time.
yeah.
And the risk of injury and like flexibility, and like when you look at tennis players, they're implement athletes with their hands are like gold. So if
Yeah.
you jack their wrists up because you're trying to turn over a barbell into the clean, you can jack them up if they're not ready for it. So I was just curious and taking courses and learning, and then I took a kettlebell course, and the instructors were actually competitors in kettlebell sport. And they
Wow.
pulled me aside, and they're like, dude, have you heard of kettlebell sport? Because we think you'd be really good at it. And I was like,
Mm.
what is it? Well, they're like, well, it takes Olympic movements with kettlebells, and you have to do it though for 10 minutes. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
that is a beast.
Yeah.
And I wanted the challenge. So it kind of all started with that curiosity and coaching and that one certification as well. Yeah.
Wow. Fantastic. And here you are today. Fantastic. Oh, great. Um, and so in terms of like you mentioned that, for instance, training those tennis player, that they had, risk of injury with the powerlifting because it requires much more technique learning, and so forth. Um, how the kettlebell is, easier to use and more user friendly in a sense. How would you describe that? How would you say that?
Yeah, well, what with the tennis players, I was trying to incorporate Olympic lifting, so like explosiveness stuff,
Yeah.
some powerlifting too, but like, I mean, I think with any tool for sure, there's going to be a technical learning curve, and the
Yeah.
squat, bench, and deadlift is infinitely simpler than a lot of what we do with kettlebells. But that being, I think there's a place for both. But that being said, that's also the beauty of the kettlebell. It's like, it depends kind of like who again, every question that we want to ask is like, who's it for, and what's their goal, right?
Yeah.
So for someone with a kettlebell, a lot of the movements are user friendly, especially like foundational movements from like a goblet squat. Like, you don't have to have a bar on your back and really reach back to stretch in that position.
Yeah.
Also too, just from like portability and accessibility, like, you have to be in a gym to use a barbell,
Yeah.
unless very rarely
Unless
are
that
people.
you have. Yeah. 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 Yes.
And then too, it's like you got to buy the plates, you got to buy the bar, you got to buy the jack stands or have a cage. So it's like the space, the investment, and then all that stuff. But with a kettlebell, with literally just one bell of one weight that I could put underneath my desk or put as a doorstop in my office,
Yeah.
literally I could still get great squatting, get a bunch of volume in, good squatting mechanics.
Yeah.
You can train movements like overhead pressing. And when you look at the construction of the bell, it's very different than a barbell, or even a dumbbell. Like a dumbbell would be a more similar object, but
Yeah.
with a dumbbell, it's basically an extension of your hand. It's
Of
like
your
right there,
hands, wrist. Yeah.
as opposed to being offset. And that offset center of mass constantly moves, is constantly varied. And so back to what we were talking about in the beginning, like, a lot of my dream is to build more adaptable, resilient athletes.
Yeah.
And because the nervous system has to work a lot more, you're going to develop a more finely tuned nervous system. So I don't want to say it's some of
So,
it is much, it's not simple. It depends what you're doing with it. It can go very complex and very
yeah.
exciting,
Yeah.
but it can also be so much simpler and accessible and portable.
Yeah.
Um, and really train you to have multiple performance abilities all at once.
Yeah. Um, and then yeah, I mean, such a unique and simple tool that is great to have in your gym and easy to train and walk around. Or you go camping, you get it in the back of your car um, and so forth. And then eventually you got to the Czech Institute, which would be pretty, I guess, if you have that mentality of, clean sport and clean living, and living in California, just up the road from Paul, it would eventually, the stream would have come up upstream and to San Francisco and touch you. And how did you came across how?
Yeah, I was studying Paul since I was, more or less since I was 18.
Oh wow.
And so I'd been studying for I think I started working with him at 25. I started learning at 18. So 7 years I'd been studying his work and been familiar with it,
Yeah.
mainly because the gym that I was coaching at and was a strength coach at, they were basically all modeled after Paul's teachings.
Mm,
I think if I recall correctly, the owner of the gym was the first Czech practitioner in the Bay Area, or like first very few handful, like first three, let's say.
yeah.
And so we were doing an exchange. I was teaching him at the time powerlifting, and he was doing nutrition, lifestyle, stress management for me, and lab testing and working in stuff. So that's really, he gave me how to eat, move, and be healthy. If I recall, it was him. And so that's where I really started learning. But, you know, I think each year, like I still reread that book
Oh
super often.
yeah.
Like, and every time you find the same thing.
Yes. You read the book and you find new things and you think about it. Was this written there before? Like last time I read it, it's incredible. It's so relevant. I interviewed Sarah Gustafson just a couple of days ago, and yeah, same things. We were just saying the same things. That is so relevant, that book, and we were talking about something in particular about book and be awarded and etc. And we were saying, Paul book hasn't been awarded, but it's been around for so long and has changed so many lives. Is incredible. It's just that book is yeah, is piece of gold. Piece of
If
gold.
that's the only book that I had, like that would be if I were to pick like my number one book in my library for anything, that would be if I could take one book with me for probably the rest of my life, it would be that book
Yeah.
because it covers damn near everything. And kind of like in a different but similar way, like with the kettlebell, it's very simple
Yeah.
and there's deep, deep, deep complexity within it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and and so I still read that today, and like you just said, every single time, like I get so many gems, and so that's how it started. Was at that gym with that book and with that coach, and then when I was 25 and I had an injury when kettlebells, that's when I hired Paul to work with me one on one to kind of take me to that next level.
Wow. Wow. And you already met Paul by then, or you were face to face, or
I was in his course in a holistic lifestyle coaching level 2 at that time at
yeah.
25, so like 9 years ago, and or 10 years ago actually. And then and so I approached him at the end of that course and asked him to, if he could take a look at my arm. And I basically said, hey, like I can't figure this thing out. No one seems to be able to. Would you be able to help? And then that kind of kickstarted the journey to work with him.
Wow. How's working with him?
Well, it's full on as you can imagine. Amazing. Worth it, like best investment I've made for sure. Like, but I think, man, I mean, there's as you, I'm almost having difficulty finding words because there's so much that I could go into like with that experience. But I think honestly, like one thing when I think back, I learned a ton from him. Like
Yeah.
lifting mechanics, posture, gut health, spirituality, like you name it. But I think one of the things when I look back that always still like viscerally lands with me is being in his presence and spending
Mm,
so much time and just learning or observing and feeling and experiencing how he lives day to day
yeah.
is like that's I was almost equally coming to him for the knowledge and the experience program design as I was to like just be in his presence and just like observe and praying over food and just the lifestyle. Like, how do you live it? Like to have a model for this stuff, like basically how to eat, move, and be healthy in real time with real problems
Yeah.
and navigating relationships and world issues and business issues. So learned a ton, and I think just being around him was as much of a gift as anything else.
Mm. You know what I'm interested is to ask you is, okay, rehab for musculoskeletal things. Obviously, it's got a physical aspect. Uh, but in terms of, especially for a person like you that is, was competing professionally and so forth, for so driven, um, and I guess that it's been for so long with that kind of aching pain and annoyances. How was the mental work, the mental aspect you know to through to break through in terms of believing? How did he help you to see behind the curtains?
You know, I would say like I really had a very strong belief in myself. You
Yeah.
know, like I think with because I remember for 2.5 years, I was basically coming very close to that black belt level, like within a very small handful of reps, the master of sport level.
Mm,
And I remember time and time and time and time again competing and missing, competing and missing. And like there was a tremendous amount of like I knew inside of myself that I could do it. I
mm,
just couldn't figure out the one or two major problems that were holding me back from it. So like the belief, and I think that was like one of the big thing that I had to my advantage. Like there was tremendous belief, and I was so willing to one just be a student and listen. And so the mental aspect, man, I would say most of the mental aspect with Paul came for me came by just like conversations during the week, like our sessions during the week, and navigating relationships. Like I
yeah.
was already super disciplined, super knew that I would damn near do anything outside of taking drugs to reach that level.
Yeah.
It was more like getting coaching on how to like balance, like how to just
Yeah.
not do so much and like take it easy and play and like just relax and go to the beach and get in the water and move. And like so the breaking of, for me, one big thing from a mindset perspective that he did help me with in this topic was he really taught me and showed me the difference between an outcome goal and a process goal.
Mm,
So much of my life had been focused on purely the outcome.
yeah.
If I didn't achieve that level, then I failed, or like I was less than. I wasn't,
Mm,
and I didn't really have a way for the training cycle or just life as a whole, but for sure for the 2 to 3 months going into it, I didn't really have a way to, in a like a ritualistic way, to celebrate the hundreds of little wins that were happening each day. And so with that change of mindset, that change of perspective, the process became a lot more enjoyable. The
mm.
process became a lot more holistic. I was one thing that we would do was I had one of my clients and training partners would train with me in the mornings at my place, early morning. She's a phenomenal baker, all like the best ingredients, like gluten-free, dairy-free, super high quality organic. She still makes them. She does now biogeometry over the food. Like
Oh, wow.
she's like amazing.
Yeah.
She would like bake something when we would train a few days a week. She would bake something like a super nutritious sweet for us.
Yeah.
And it would like bake in the oven while we're training.
Mm.
And when we get out, we'd have a meal to like she would bring food, I would have my breakfast, and then we would share and like break bread and like celebrate and talk and what went well, what didn't. So, that was huge because I think that's one of the like for me, that's what really increased the longevity of my lifting and much less of like a toxic relationship with competing in sport. So
Yeah.
that would be one example of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing when, yeah, you can really be present, I guess, in those moments fully and enjoy all the colors, instead of having this black and white, panel that you're following, that you're chasing. Um, yeah. Incredible. That's amazing. Beautiful breakthrough. And now, so you've been studying for more than, what is it, 15 years with the Czech Institute, or practicing? Yeah. And now you are what level of Czech practitioner, or?
So I've done HLC 3 and then I did CP1.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Czech practitioner level 1. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm going this year to do HLC 3, so really looking forward, to that, and IMS 3 as well. Yeah, so really looking forward.
Nice.
And so you were mentioning earlier that you got into, some breath work and some working with breath work.
Yeah, I've been I would say, and breathing was a big part of what Paul and I did together too through the practice of working in.
Mm,
And I think that was probably the first instance that I really started understanding and maybe like understanding, yes, but like more experiencing, like an
mm,
understanding through my own physical body
yeah.
of what breath work has the potential to do, probably
Mm,
started then. But then, like in probably the last few years, maybe less than 2 to 3 years or so,
mm,
I started really understanding more and more about just the importance of nasal breathing and that's correlation to sleep and performance. And a lot of protocols, especially from Patrick McEwen, he's got a fantastic course for those who are listening called The Oxygen Advantage.
oh
Great
yeah,
book. He's
yeah,
got
that's right.
breathing. He's phenomenal. So I've used a lot of his protocols and teach his protocols for like performance and function. But the course that I was just in this weekend was somatic release breath work.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be essentially utilizing breath work to help heal the nervous system.
Yeah.
It's very much somatic is basically of the body.
Yeah.
And so with this type of breath work, it's basically a way to clear the stress that we're all under, kind of off gas. And also, if someone has trauma, it can help really support that. And then there's a whole repatterning protocol as well. And it was just profound. I had done different types of breath work over the last maybe 5 years for my own experience,
Mm,
from holotropic to biodynamic breath work, to just more like shamanic type breath work as well. But this was actually the first course that I had taken to actually learn this in this type of package of somatic release. And it was such a powerful, powerful experience. And it's going to be a big part of like offering this style of breath work will be a big part of my practice moving forward.
mm. And now do you work just a one-on-one, or do you, what do you actually, how do you actually work?
So with the breath work specifically, because I don't do very many one-on-ones anymore. My main focus as a whole for my business is more on like events, men's retreats, courses, workshops. I
Yeah.
will do some one-on-one consulting, but the breath work specifically is the one area more than anything that I will do one-on-one, some in person, but more Zoom.
Mm.
And then I also will teach at small groups, large groups, and in retreats as well.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So if people reach you, from the social media or, internet, you can organize one-on-one session with them, breath work, and yeah.
Absolutely. And
Oh,
I'm gonna start posting about that a lot more because with the performance type of breath work that I've been using for a while now, like Patrick McEwen's work,
mm,
that I've been basically more integrating into my programs and working more in groups or events. But the more somatic release breath work is the one that I really feel called from my heart to really share more. And at least at this point in time, I'm very open to doing one-on-one. So I'll be posting more, but if anybody's interested, please hit me up and I'll be sharing more for sure out there on it.
yeah.
So powerful. So honored and just amazed at the power of it. So I would love for those who feel called to experience it.
Yeah, what did you experience? What was the biggest yeah, the biggest experience that you had during this somatic breath work?
You know, the way they taught the course, which they laid it out beautifully, it was very much you're learning techniques as a practitioner. So
Yeah,
like some touch techniques and different types of cueing, kind of like NLP and different breath work and stuff. But there was a huge component of experiencing it and
yeah,
going through your own healing process. And so for me, sharing, openly on this, like one of the things, the themes that I've really been working on in recent years has been developing a healthy relationship with anger. And that was
mm,
basically an emotion that I really never felt really safe or very safe to go into. And what I made it represent for myself, like I'm a bad person or I'm a mean person, and been very afraid of conflict over the years and stuff like that. And so in the breathwork sessions, it brought me face to face with that emotion and feeling and the memories that came up and really releasing it. And one of the beautiful things was, you have a sitter. So someone's sitting there with you, supporting you if you need something and coaching you on some breathing or speaking to you. And the brother that I had in there, a buddy of mine, Nathan, he does a lot of work with sacred sons and he does a lot of deep healing work. And he basically, like, he had asked me something during it about what was underneath the anger while I was in it. And that brought me into a deep sense of sadness. And so, to have him there and then to also be held in that. So in this mix of emotions, releasing anger and getting curious about what's underneath and feeling it in my body, it was a very, very, very felt experience of a lot of emotions that I've repressed over the years.
yeah,
Um, and so I feel just lighter and more clear and more centered and even more vocal. Like I feel like it's opened up my throat and my communication because I believe that there's tremendous power in anger. It can be a great catalyst for transformation. And so I've known this, but I've been, let's say, afraid to maybe go into it because I haven't really known how to work with it very well. I haven't been modeled it very well. So
mm,
it's been tension for a while now. And this was I'm grateful because this is a great tool to help work with that in a healthy way.
yeah. Oh, amazing, amazing. And and yeah, great. So I can't wait to see you promoting that work. I will be definitely interested to jump on it. Um, what I want to ask you is, so through the simplicity, I guess, of the approach, the check approach on the lifestyle. Um, what changes? What changes do you? What changes you the most? What do you think that through that study, through the HLC study of implementation of as a professional athlete, what give you the most back for your to perform at your best?
Hmm.
Like for our listener, because it can be like a bit daunting and thinking about it, sleep and nutrition and what is nutrition, right? Is a supplement or is but if we can transpire from our conversation that it's actually just drinking enough water, like you just been doing. I've been looking around from my bottle of water. I don't know what I put it, but yeah. What do you think? Dan? Right, Dan? Even as a professional athlete, if you would have missed something of the six principle, what would I have give you? Um, Made you feel the biggest lack?
Man, there's so much I could go into. I think if I'm looking back now, I really think just the power of the breath. I'm gonna say like that for me because I could think about like when I was an athlete, I was very much over excessive in the working out and the excess yang, and so I had to learn working in. But you can apply breath work to that. Breath work can be very excitatory. It can charge you up, and it can be one of the quickest things to down regulate the nervous system.
Yeah,
And it's the thing that we do most, well, outside of our thoughts, it's the thing that we do most repetitively during the day. So, if the breathing's off, you're going to be way more in a survival state. You're going to be more tense. You're going to be more up in your head. It's going to be harder to lose weight. Your ability to stabilize your spine in the gym when you're exercising, it's not going to be very good. Your sleep's going to be thrown off. Anybody who's mouth breathing is going to have shit for sleep. Um, so I would say like the breath and understanding nasal breathe, to keep it simple for the listeners, just keeping your mouth closed during the day so that you nasal breathe. That's it. That's
yeah,
it. And when you're training, nasal breathe. And as much as you can when you sleep, either tape your mouth or nasal breathe. So nasal breathing, if someone just did that, you're going to breathe into your belly easier, your diaphragm. Everything will have an impact with your breathing. And it's basically like the only system of the autonomic system that you have conscious and you have a conscious control over to some extent, and it's unconscious as well. Like I
mm,
can't control my heart. I can get my heart to beat faster, but I can't say, look at it right now, beat faster, you
yeah,
know? But my breath, I can charge it up, bring it down. So I would say that would probably be the simplest and most powerful tool that can relate to function, to performance, to emotional well-being, to spiritual connection. That's absolutely critical for athletes and non-athletes.
yeah, yeah. It's incredible because, like you said, emotional and spiritual. You said emotional and spiritual, which is so true. Like perhaps for some people that listen, they think, oh yeah, spiritual and etc. But it could be a little bit too wooey wooey. But the fact is realistically breathing and diaphragmatically breathing correctly in a way that balance our nervous system, right? That has a profound effect because affect our central nervous system, which is our brain and our spinal cord, and consequently the function of our body. Like you said, it can bring us up high and maybe a little bit too high that we feel too much fight and flight, and low in a sense of a more relaxed and more which again we all of us need it in this day and age, right? With there is so much going on, life, um, busy life, family, kids, relationship, work, and so forth. For all of that adds stress, and so I totally just nasal breathing is one of the most the most profound things. Be conscious of nasal breathing that we can do in a day-to-day basis. So still, I feel like it hasn't been um, understood well enough by the general population. Yeah, that's yeah. You can exercising is good, eating is good, but breathing is that 25,000 breaths per day, right? So,
Absolutely. It's going to change it'll be quickly change your thoughts. And the best thing, it's free, right? You don't need a water bottle. You don't need to buy purified water or sea salt to rehydrate. You can do it anywhere from in your car. Nobody even needs to know you're doing it. So if you're in a presentation or you're on a sales call or whatever, you can train to calm yourself and actually heal your body at any time of day and when you're sleeping.
mm, mm. you you mute yourself.
Yep. Sorry,
Yeah.
my apologies.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Yeah, fantastic. And now I want to ask you about your. Okay. Yes. Good. Um, I want to ask you about your course.
Awesome.
Tell me about your course. I've been looking at it. I've been circling it around it like a shark. Been yeah, considering to get a good bite at it. Yes, please.
Yeah, that was so much of that course kettlebell lifestyle came from my inspiration from working with Paul, and then combined with all the knowledge and experience I've had over the years. Kettlebell lifestyle is literally the closest thing to actually working with me one on one, because once you get to, let's say, phase one of the training, it's done in phases and blocks, very progressive. It's a very gradual and methodical program. It starts off slow for a reason. Week one is like working in, learning a warm up. It's like getting the lifestyle foundations, prioritizing your schedule, learning a working in movement. Then week two, we go phase one, then phase two, phase three. So it's a very gradual process. It's
Mm,
not for someone who wants to just kick their own ass. Like, it's not. You will get a workout as you get into later phases, but it's way more of an actual, like, sustainable program. It's
mm,
like, it's not just like, okay, let's beat the crap out of ourselves. It's like, no, let's actually learn how to move our body, how to have better posture, how to work in, work out. And before every major workout, once you get to phase one, there's actually a training readiness assessment that was inspired by the daily readiness assessment that Paul and I use. His was way more expansive and way more. This is 5 questions, and your training volume, how many reps and sets, mainly the sets, is modified by your stress level, just
yeah,
like I would coach a client.
yeah.
And that's absolutely, like, pivotal to
Mm,
long-term health and performance. And that's completely missing in almost every other philosophy outside of the check system,
yeah.
and non-existent in online programs, basically. So it's basically a 9-week program. There's 2 levels for the basic beginner who has no experience and who's overtrained and burnt out, as well as someone who is fit, maybe has some resistance training, but wants to learn some kettlebell work. And it
Mm,
walks them through a process. And actually next week, so on February 2nd, I'm actually launching Kettlebell Lifestyle Live. And Kettlebell
wow.
Lifestyle. So from all the people who have gone through it, the feedback and the transformations have been insane. And one of the biggest requests that people wanted was, one, we want to train more now, and we would love to get your coaching live. And so I'm going to be doing a 1 day a week membership. It's going to be $57. And
Oh, wow.
basically each week you can log in for an hour. You'll get to watch a recording for 7 days. You'll also get free access to a quarterly workshop, more or less, about each quarter, that I'll teach. You get into my community, and it's going to have 2 levels in there. I do it with my girlfriend each week, and she's going to demonstrate a beginner option. I'm going to do a more advanced, but people who want to be coached, want a live experience, I incorporate different new techniques, different breath work, different stretches, new stuff. And so whether someone wants a standalone program to follow at home that's more foundational, the
Mm,
Kettlebell Lifestyle Fix program is fantastic. You'll always have videos, tutorials, all the morning routines, everything. And then the Kettlebell Lifestyle is like a little bit higher level or a little bit
mm,
faster pace with the level 2. It's new every week, and you get coaching. So depending on what someone or you can get them both too. They complement each other very, very well. But
mm.
that's coming out next week, so I'm super excited about it.
Oh, fantastic. That's amazing. That's amazing. It will be a great experience for for the people who wants to, have you live and do a one-on-one live, which will be pretty close to be face to face, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And with those classes, I really am passionate about teaching. Like
Mm,
even in the like people will get a workout for sure. You'll get a workout, but I'm not there to kill you. Like
yeah.
you'll get a great warm up, you'll get some some very cool decompression stretches at the end that are powerful. And I like teaching every class like it's a mini workshop. I'll
Mm,
teach a technical component for like 10 to 20 minutes each time. Then
mm.
we'll do some rounds of whatever the exercises are. And if you want to go harder, you can rewatch the video for 7 days and do more sets and stuff. But I really want to teach and empower people to move better and to feel better in their body. So that live component, that is, you will get coaching for sure. That's what I love doing.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. One thing that I find in my practice with my clients, when they don't have a complete awareness of how in depth my work goes, in terms of assessing their stress level and how I modify the program, or why we do so many assessment is that a lot of the time, what I found that people get surprised that even by doing some simple exercises, they still getting a workout out of it. Holding up a prone cobra, to work at that extensor chain of the back, and some people can't go over 30 seconds of just holding a static prone cobra, and they're getting so much benefit for their posture, which then eventually will help them move better, right?
That's the beauty. Like, that's really like, I love hearing that because that's what really like excites me is when you can take a quote unquote simple exercise and make it very challenging via the awareness and the subtle details and what's moving and what's not moving and what's activating, what's not, to create that awareness to make a smarter body with a quote unquote simple exercise. Like
Mm,
that, like it's humbling. And I think honestly in fitness it's great to get humbled, especially in that way.
mm,
Like when it's like, wow, just doing a glute bridge properly, or like, something that someone might say is so simple. I mean, I've had Olympic level Taekwondo athletes, one in specific I'm thinking of on my table,
mm,
taking them through a glute bridge. This is a lower body explosive athlete that does, I don't even know, a million kicks every day in practice and an Olympic level, and literally getting him to do 10 glute bridges through proper cueing and what to do and what not to do. He was shaking like crazy. And it was such an eye opener. So it's like that shows that there's tremendous potential.
yeah.
Um, so I loved what you said because I really do think that's how powerful simple things can be if
Mm,
we add in a little bit of nuance or complexity to it, or depth. Maybe depth is the right word. Simple,
yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah, it is. There is a lot of still. mm, I feel like in the fitness industry, there is still a lot of moving and try to impress the others and impress ourselves, and try to play big, when instead is great to learn how to walk, and then slowly, bit by bit, um, that principle of, step by step is relevant in all things, and
mm,
yeah, it's the process that give us a longevity, because yes, exercising, for instance, is important, uh, but I feel like is it's important to exercise for with longevity in mind, so that
Completely.
we can enjoy the exercise day in and day out with good posture, good form, not just by sweating. Is Yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's definitely what I find. If if you would um how much time you have?
I've got like 5-ish more minutes, and I just about 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. Well, then why don't we wrap it up? And I just gonna ask you to share um two piece of wisdom that you could give to our listener today.
Hmm.
Two piece of advice, something that you, yeah.
I think as it relates to, what we shared, like, man, I think two very powerful tools. These are two tools that I use that are like, I think if people implemented would be incredible. One is the nasal breathing, so keeping the mouth closed at all day, especially during training time, during sleep, tape your mouth. That's huge. Like the amount of just down regulation of the nervous system. Like you said something very powerful. I mean, things are so crazy today. People are so stressed, flight or fight. Most people are in such flight or fight. It's hard to, stick to goals. It's hard to be a good parent. It's hard to have calm communications with loved ones. It's hard if you're stuck in flight or fight. And so if you're watching the news, if you're whatever it is. So nasal breathing can be the freest, the quickest, you can do it anywhere and no one will know, way to heal your nervous system. And that's
Yeah,
really what we're doing.
yeah.
Uh, Accompanied with that is, I think, having a practice, or I know having a practice in the morning. You could do it anytime, but I would say in the morning is, if someone doesn't like journaling, I would say just give it a shot, put a 5-minute timer, that's it, and journal, but journal in a way that's completely unfiltered. This is an exercise that one of my mentors gave to me,
Mm.
a guy named Angelo Cisco, and it's been one of the most healing things that I've done in recent years. And the practice is simply to journal and write in an unfiltered, everything that's going, just whatever's coming through, stream
Coming
of
through
consciousness.
you. Mm.
Just if you're angry and you want to cuss the world, write it out. Just get it from outside of your body onto paper, which is going to create distance and a little bit more objectivity, a little bit more separation from the story.
Yeah.
You don't have to like dissect it. Don't judge it. Try not to judge yourself. Just freaking write. If you want to curse, if you want to, you're mad at anybody, just write it out 5 minutes. And I really do believe that those two things that can, one, help manage the thoughts, calm the nervous system, remove a little bit, like lessen that inner critic, which is really hard on a lot of us, create that separation in that space. And
Mm.
with air, you're also going to create that separation in a space. So the ego is not going to be so attached to the stories that
Mm.
are running the show. And so that's the only thing. No major prompt other than write unfiltered what's coming through you and what needs to come through you.
Yeah.
Like if you're angry, write it out. Whatever, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you can do, one page, smaller, whatever, and nasal breathing, and just watch those two practices change your life.
Yeah. The journaling the same way that you describe it, as just because I just find it myself doing it always in the afternoon. And it's really helpful. And what has surprised me the most is, and what I said to some of my clients that I suggested to do is, what has surprised me the most is then when you go in and read it back, that you can see that is not present you know, that anger, that dissatisfaction, or whatever that is going on, then is also, it doesn't gonna last forever. And give, I found that give me that perspective of, when I find myself in that feeling and situation, to be able to step back and actually observe what's going on. And that helps me, you know, to then calm down right then, during those time, for instance, for more emotionally charged experience, that I write it down. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah, it is. It's great work. And that we all need, on, like I said before, like, we have such a busy life, and we don't realize, that we do. And our modern world, is pretty much more stressful than what we evolved on.
Yeah.
So we needed to find every single piece and moment, opportunity to rewild ourselves and bring back, re, rewild, in a sense, to go back to our humanness.
Oh.
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 All right, Mike. That was incredible. Thank you so much for your time. To our listener, Mike Salemi, today, you can find him. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your website, perhaps, so you can tell our listener your website. And
Sure. It's so you'll need to enter www, then it's mikesalemi.io is my main website, and you can see a lot of the offerings that I have there, programs, and I'll be launching Kettlebell Lifestyle Live next week. And the day before, Tuesday in California time at 5 p.m., I'm teaching a free workshop on kettlebell progressions. So
oh
anyone
wow,
who's interested, come on in. Also, I'm doing discounts on Kettlebell Lifestyle Live. And anybody who's interested in breathwork, just hit me up. I'm also very present on YouTube, which is just my name. And then on Instagram, mike.salemi, which I post, usually a few times a week, usually some value added content. So feel free to check me out there, guys, if you're interested.
great. Mike, thank you so much. Was great to chat with you. And nothing else. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right. I speak with you soon.